Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I'm sure everybody here is really looking forward to our weekend weather. Yeah, for sure. Good morning. I'm Dan Stolts from Microsoft, Chief Technology Strategist. I've been with Microsoft about 7 years, but I know everybody in this room could really care less about that, right? So let's move on. What I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about today is the future, and really where data center operations is going. And in order to do that, I have to really give you a lot of different lessons to really kind of understand the picture of where we're going. The first thing, and probably the most important thing that I want to highlight is this one. In 2016, CIO priorities and challenges. The number one challenge of CIOs today, literally 2016, a survey just done, is talent. Number one challenge. And the biggest talent gaps are analytics, business knowledge and acumen, security and risk. Right? Also, other things that are up there, project management, architecture, leadership, technical skills. Really, CIOs are saying that my guys are not smart enough. My girls are not smart enough. That's what they're saying. You know what? This has not just been a problem for this year. It's not just last year. This has been number one for 4 years running. And top of the list is business acumen. What does that mean? CIOs expect us to be able to understand the business and the business challenges, and we simply cannot do that. Why can't we do that? Because we're technologists. We're analytical thinkers, right? We think about technology. We don't necessarily think in terms of business. So I want to lead off today with saying we need to close the talent gap. And there's a couple different talent gaps that we need to close. One is business. Getting smart on the business, our businesses, and in particular, not only understanding the business, but how to translate those business challenges into technology solutions. And then number two on the talent problem is getting smart on technology. You know what? Pick a technology. The way technology grows, it's impossible. It will be absolutely impossible to learn everything about a whole bunch of different technologies. Pick one. Become an expert on cloud. Become an expert on A or B or C. I'll tell you, if you want to make a lot of money, if you go look at the job boards, I can tell you where all the money is at. Cloud architects. People can't hire enough. Why? We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But cloud, data center, security, data analysis, right? These are really hot jobs right now. These are things that businesses need in a big way. But then we have this challenge, this monumental challenge of translating the business problem to technology solutions. It's really, really, really hard. Like in school, whenever you did the math problem of you got two trains that leave different cities heading toward each other at different speeds, at what point do they meet up and how long does it take them to get there? That kind of hard. That's how hard these challenges are. Well, why? Well, because there's different languages. You've got to not only understand the business problem and everything that goes into that challenge, or that opportunity in some cases, but you've got to be able to translate that into technology solutions. So from a business standpoint, you really get functional requirements. From a technology solution standpoint, you have technical requirements. Completely different. They're completely different languages. They're completely different. We need to learn how to do that translation. From a business problem addresses a business need or opportunity. A technology solution addresses a technology challenge. Completely different. The language of business is vision, strategic mission, objective, processes. The language of technology is programming, infrastructure, cloud, Internet of Things. There's not a direct correlation there. We have to get smart. Often many problems manifest to root problems are often difficult to identify on the business side. I got news for us. That's one similarity with the technology. The root problem is often really hard to find when it comes to a technology solution. But not only that, whenever you have to go solve that problem, it's often, almost always, never one technology solution for one business problem. There's not a one-to-one relationship. There's a multiple calculations or multiple solutions to solve one single problem. Really, really challenging, really, really hard stuff to do. And people who understand the business don't necessarily understand the technology. People that understand the technology and the language of technology don't usually understand the business. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into this, but look at the perspectives. You know, a business climate, emergent industry issues, culture, business aim, completely different from the perspective of the technologist. Technology available, the technical skills available, the technical resources, the time, the money that it takes to do all of this stuff. There's not an easy marriage. There's not an easy match. So who does do this? Whose job is it to really understand that? And the answer to that is really two things. One could argue it's the CIO. Who thinks it's the CIO? That's his job, not mine. Come on, show of hands. CIO's job is to translate business problems into technology solutions. No hands? A couple? Yeah, sure, the CIO is going to do that for every business unit in your organization. Some companies don't even have a CIO. Who's doing it for them? Who are my cloud architects in the room? Come on, cloud architects, raise your hand. How about architects? Who are the architects in the room? There's a few of those, right? These are the guys making the big bucks, or should be. That's usually when I get a chuckle. So architect defined, a person who designs and in many cases also supervises construction, the deviser, maker, or creator of anything, the architects of the Constitution of the United States. Architects are the creators. Architects are the people that you give them a challenge, they give you a solution. Right? That's what an architect does. So one could argue very effectively, hey, that's the architect's job, that's not my job. I'm not an architect. We saw, 10 hands go up in the room. They're architects. But you know what? They need help. They can't do it all alone. They need you. Your CIO needs you. Your company, your CEO needs you to help. And the future of IT, the future of our industry is us waking up to the challenge. You know what? I've been delivering a similar message to this for a number of years now. I would venture to say that half the people in this room have heard it before, because I delivered at least 5 or 10 minutes on every presentation I've given for the last 2 years. That we need to start understanding the business challenge. It's not going away. It's not going to change just because we're closing our eyes to it. So the small number of people that are physically in charge of this can't solve the problem. They need our help. So what do we have to do? We have to translate business objectives into actions. I'm going to coach you up a little bit here, okay? I'm going to give you some tips. You don't have to take notes. You have access to these slides. They're available today on my blog, itproguru.com/resources. So identify, by the way, if you try to do it now, it's a 10 meg file. So you're going to choke the network, and you're probably not going to get it down anyway, so might as well just wait till you get home. So identify the problems, especially the root problems, right? So remember, we're talking from a business standpoint here. You got to determine the requirements to solve each problem. Because a lot of times the problems, the requirements of the problems might not be fully vetted out, right? That's something that we have to be able to do, is really understand what the requirements are. Because the last thing you want to do is come up with a technology solution and then say, oh, well, that doesn't meet this requirement, that doesn't meet that requirement. Well, who the heck told me that that requirement was there in the first place? Nobody. The reason why nobody told you is because you didn't ask the right questions. You've got to ask about the requirements up front and get those answers. How many people attended Chris's session over here in the far left-hand side of the room earlier today? He teed me up so well. We need to ask our users questions. Have a meeting. Have a cocktail at night. Have a lunch. Have a coffee. Have a tea. Ask them questions. More on that in a minute. Determine requirements to solve each problem. Determine the technology available to solve the problem. Because there's a lot of tech out there from a lot of different players. Microsoft is a big one. I hope you understand that. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about tech in a few minutes, in particular cloud and Windows Server. But also identify strategic partners. Microsoft's got a lot of partners. One of those partners is joining us today, Lighthouse. They're helping us man our booth. So stop by and talk to us and talk to them. Determine likely barriers. Get those barriers out of the way. Understand what those barriers, so that whenever we do decide on a technology that we're going to use, we're going to know that those barriers are not going to come to fruition with the technology that we've selected. And then determine additional value. This is something that people skip all the time. Don't skip this step. Determine additional value, because as you dive into this problem and you start deploying new technology, there could be an enormous amount of extra value available by spending an extra $5 or spending an extra 5 hours. Right? Oh, if we just do this, we can also get that. I mean, you don't want to have scope creep. I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying understand everything. But not only that, even if it could be spending $0 extra and 0 extra time. Oh, by the way, not only are we needing this for this unit, but hey, the entire organization could benefit from this. So this business unit is paying for it, but these other 3 or 30 departments could also leverage this technology, and I gain all that extra value. And oh, by the way, by gaining all that extra value, what else could I possibly gain? A lot of extra support, right? And maybe even some extra funding to do it better the first time. And just as importantly as everything else, get started, okay? So many times we put projects on a shelf. How many people have put projects on a shelf this year? Okay, we're only in January, in the last 12 months, okay? Happens all the time. The bottom line, though, is we need to provide our business units with the solutions that they need. Chris teed up this one also. If we don't, your business will lose money, not hit their numbers, go around you, find a solution, host it in the cloud, stray from policies and procedures, if those policies and procedures even exist. Right? They'll stray. What is that called? Shadow IT. Very good. Also known as shadow IT. This is a huge problem. That means they're standing up stuff in the cloud and you're not managing it. How can you manage it when you don't even know about it? How can you secure it when you don't even know it exists? And what happens whenever it does get compromised? You know, well, one, you miss out on opportunity, you lose control, you lose visibility, you lose management. Do you lose responsibility? No, not necessarily, right? So complicating the situation even more is business units are accustomed to us dropping the ball, IT coming up with objections, not understanding our needs because that translation's really hard, right? IT not delivering in a timely fashion. Oh, yeah, I can stand about server to give me about 6 weeks. Or 6 months. I talked to somebody about 4 months ago. It was a government employee. Sorry, it wasn't a government employee. It was a government contractor. It was a company that works for the government. And their standard answer for standing up a new server, guess how many months? 12 to 14 months for one server. That's their process. They have no desire to change that process. That's why shadow IT exists. What's your process? Oh, a lot of you say, yeah, I can do it in 2 weeks. How long does it take them to do it on Azure? 5 minutes. You're still a bottleneck at 2 weeks. Fix it. Why? Why do our business units see us this way? Because we have poorly formulated plans. They're not following procedures. There's not enough time. We have too many things to do, Dan, to do all this stuff the right way. Most importantly, go back to number 1. We don't have the right skills to do this. We have a talent gap, right? Our CIOs understand that. We just haven't figured it out yet. We need to get their confidence back. All of us, need to get the business unit's confidence back. To get them confidence back, we need to get them to engage you early, then over-deliver for years. That's what it's going to take. You need to over-deliver for a long period of time, not one project. One project you might win one person, right? You have to get into the mindset of over-delivering in our business. Who thinks I'm full of crap? Come on, don't be shy. I'm telling you the truth, truly. I talk to CEOs and CIOs all the time. I've heard these same stories for years. Read the periodicals. Our partners, our VTUG guys over here were telling us the same thing just 20 minutes ago. It's all the truth. Some considerations, things you need to know. Vision or strategic mission of the project, of the problem, right? It's not enough just to look at it from a technology standpoint. You have to look at it from the business side of things. You need to understand the benefit to the business and to the company, the longevity of the solution. You don't want to take 9 months to put a solution together that's only going to last for 2 weeks, right? Understand the entire business impact and the user impact. Understand the systems and the business impact, the pros and the cons, how it's related to other business challenges, how it's related to other technology that we already have deployed in our businesses. These are things that, who in our organization can do these things? An architect, very good, that's their job. Who else? Hackers. Consultants can do this. Who is doing it? Consultants are doing it. And they're charging a lot of money. And there's a lot of them right on the other side of the stadium. Happy to take your money. If you don't have the time, you don't have the resources, let them do it, by all means. One of the things that struck me that Chris and the other guys, I think it might have been Sean, one of the guys over there said earlier this morning, if you're not keeping up with technology, you're going to be in help desk before you know it, and you're going to stay there for the rest of your career. We got to keep moving forward. Technology is not going to slow down. In fact, the pace at which technology is going to be delivered is going to get infinitely faster. How long? Let's just take the last operating system, Windows 10. How long did it take Windows 10 to come out? From the time Windows 8 was released to the time Windows 10. You might know how long it was? 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that. How about Windows 7? How long did that take? 3 years. How about Vista? How long did that take? 5 years. Yeah, the longer they wait, the worse it gets. Truly. How about XP? 2.5 years. How about Windows, the next version of Windows? When is that going to be? 3 months. Microsoft has already told us there's not going to be a next version of Windows. It's going to be on a constant upgrade cycle every 3 to 4 months. Actually, they've said three times a year, so say it's 4 months, 3 or 4 times a year. So every 3 to 4 months, you're going to get a new operating system. How about cloud services? How often do you get an upgrade in your cloud services or your cloud engine? Almost daily, it seems like. That is the pace that we're moving to. And it's not just Microsoft. Look at every provider out there. Everything as a service. Read the brochures. Go down the hall over there after lunch or during lunch. Go down the hall over there and grab some brochures. See how much stuff is offered as a service. Everything is going to be offered as a service in the next 2 years. You need to start preparing your career and your mindset for the future. You need to drive business impact. Don't wait for a business challenge. If you truly don't understand enough about your business to know where your business challenges are, first of all, if you're a public company, it's really easy to find out what your business challenges are. Read the quarterly reports. Better yet, read what the analysts say about your quarterly report. You'll know what all the challenges are. You'll get it, straight up. And, some of you might be thinking, yeah, but, we're a big company. I can't possibly solve the problems of our company. Right? I'm one person in a really big company. Since I started at Microsoft, I've saved hundreds of millions of dollars for my company. I've put into place many, many programs that have given Microsoft new ways of doing business. Why can't you do that? The answer is you can. It doesn't, you can make a difference. You do make a difference if you make the decision that you're going to make a difference in your organization. Go find it. Talk to your business unit leaders. Find out what's possible. And think about the business impact. And oh, by the way, there's big career impact there too if you can do this. If you can nail this, big career impact, positive career impact. So what's possible? Microsoft wants to help you create what's possible for your company. Solve current problems, create new revenue, generate new customer bases. The list goes on and on. New opportunities that nobody has thought of. In your business, what are some things that nobody has thought of? How many times have you been sitting in your office like, how freaking stupid is, this company that I work for, how can they be so stupid that they haven't figured this out? Anybody ever had that thought about their business? Go fix it. That's what I'm talking about. Go fix it. I didn't say it was easy. I didn't say it was going to take 5 minutes. Over time, we can actually have major impact. Make a difference architecting what's possible. You don't have to have architect in your title to architect what's possible for your organization. One of the things that I do, I just did this for a company last week, is I do workshops, brainstorming or team workshops. So I wanted to give you the outline of what I do to help businesses with this particular challenge. And if in your business you want to have me or one of my team come to your business to do something like this, reach out to me. I'll be at the booth later on today. So we have a brainstorming session about the opportunities, the challenges, the opportunities the business might have. And then we brainstorm how we can maybe solve some of those challenges. And then we report back to the entire team so everybody can see kind of how we're thinking about things. And then we gamify it a little bit by voting on the best and maybe have a grab bag or something that, for the best prize. Right? There's things that you can do to bring your organization together to start doing this. But you got to get started. If you need help, bring in a partner, bring in Microsoft. We're happy to help you. I would ask that everybody dedicates time each week to understand the business and to keep up with technology. 2 things. 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. Figure out what it is for you. Dedicate some time. Stick it on your calendar. Don't answer your phone. Don't check your email. Just focus on that. Maybe it's inviting a business unit, somebody from facilities, somebody from the sales manager or the marketing manager. Talk to them. I don't care if you're a help desk person. I don't care if you're the CIO. Everybody should be doing this. If the entire business is working toward that same mission of creating what's possible for your organization, that is the future of IT. That is the glory of IT. That is where IT should be today, but it's not. There are some organizations that actually operate this way today. How much time do you want to present? 5%. Maybe eventually you'll get to 10%. Then maybe eventually you'll get to 15 or more. The more time you can allocate, the more impactful you can be. Sometimes, especially for getting up to speed on the technology side of things, you might have to use some personal time. Talk to developers about how much time they spend on personal time going to hackathons or reading a book or reading about technology. They do it all the time. Ask an IT, a generalist, or an engineer or an architect how much time they spend learning. Significantly smaller amount of time. Why? Because we're getting pulled in a million different directions and we can't even think straight at the end of the day. Screw spending more time on technology. I want to unplug. We got to figure out how to work it in. So please, figure out how to work it in. So let's talk about innovation and applications and where things are going. We talked about everything as a service, and I do mean everything. You know, Microsoft has been in this cloud-first mode, cloud-first mobile mode, mobile-first, cloud-first mode for a long time. And the rest of the world is following suit. And I say the rest of the world is following suit, but Microsoft probably followed somebody else. And really, that is the way things are going. And, you know, we have to look at things, you know, how much remains unvirtualized? For some businesses, a lot. For some businesses, none. How much of that stuff that's virtualized is in the cloud today? How many people have workloads in the cloud today? Show of hands. Put them up so everybody can see. Okay, great. I expected a much larger number out of this audience. Really did. Why is my CIO looking at agile alternatives? Why is investment in apps growing so much faster than IT? Applications are the future because they make things happen. They solve business problems. They're getting rolled out almost weekly in some businesses. It's constant. That applications are the way that companies are driving innovations into the organization. That's why it's such a big deal. You know, I mean, I'm not going to go through kind of the past, the history, but I do want to talk a little bit about Windows Server, System Center 2016, Microsoft Azure. Whenever they were built, it's cloud-first innovation, infrastructure and application platform, right? So basically what Microsoft did is they took all that platform as a service that they've been delivering in cloud and brought it down for us to be able to use in the data center. In some cases, literally even the same interface. But in a lot of cases, like in the Windows Server, it's really leveraging that technology in our on-prem environments. And we're going to talk about some of those things. But it gives us the opportunity to rethink the data center. We need to think about services, not servers. And I know everybody in this room has heard that before, because that's been the theme for years, that we really need to think about things in terms of services, not servers, because they are different. If you're still in server mode, you're still working and operating in the past. Don't do it. Get your head out of the clouds, or in the clouds, depending on how you want to look at it. Whenever you get into the cloud, it gives you a better opportunity to innovate. You can move at a much faster pace. Okay? If you want to bring, if you're concerned about security, you're concerned about protection, or you have policies that you have to get through, fine, bring those cloud infrastructure down to your on-premises and we can help you do that too. Microsoft has a solution for that. Okay? And when Windows Server 2016 happens, what you'll find is all of that awesome tech that they put into the cloud is now available to you. That's been a theme for a few years too, because when Windows Server 2012 R2 came out, where did they get all that great tech and networking and scalability? They got it from Azure. Microsoft spends an enormous amount of money on R&D, an enormous billions of dollars. Let's talk a little bit about cloud. And you know what? This is not a cloud per se session, but I do want to touch on it a little bit, because as we talk about the future of operations in the data center, you have to talk about the cloud, because the cloud is the future of the data center. And for all of those naysayers, let me tell you a little story. I remember a day when people used to tell me that I was stupid because I cared about Windows. This was back in the DOS days. It goes to show you how old I am. I remember the day when people said, oh, the internet's a fad. I remember the day when people said virtualization is only for big business, or virtualization is only for unimportant workloads. I remember the day when people said, I will never have anything in the cloud. I'll bet there's not a single person in this room today that does not have data in the cloud. Anybody want to raise your hand that does not have any data whatsoever in the cloud? Personal data. I don't see any hands. Stand up, because I want to see you. Stand up. One person. Oh, he's not really standing up to answer the question. Sorry. Everything is going to be in the cloud. Okay, maybe not everything in the next 5 years, but eventually the cloud will be synonymous with our data center. Whether it's in the cloud or on our on-premises data center or on our partner's data center does not matter. It's just part of our infrastructure. It's part of our operations. That is the future. That's where we're going. Some businesses are already there today. And as we move into 2016 in the cloud, you'll see that even more. The cloud is built on infrastructure, right? On top of that infrastructure, what is that infrastructure? It's compute, it's networking, it's storage, right? The same stuff that we have in our on-premises. It's servers, it's hardware, right? You're renting hardware. Instead of renting it by the month or by the year or by the decade, you're renting it by the minute. But it's far cheaper to rent it by the minute than it is to buy it. Far cheaper, most of the time. And on top of that, there's an enormous amount of other capabilities that the cloud gives us. Think about streaming services, media services, Olympic Games. Olympic Games have been streamed on Microsoft Media Services for the last 3 Olympic Games. Massive amounts of streaming data all at the same time by millions of people. That's how tested Media Services platform is on Microsoft Azure. Right? That's one example. Internet of Things. Everybody hears all the buzz about Internet of Things. If you're like, not for me, that's something for my programmers to worry about, think again. You're missing the boat. You're missing the entire concept of the discussion. We have to understand what's possible for our businesses in order to solve our business problems. How are we going to understand what's possible if we don't understand Internet of Things? How can we do that? The answer is we can't. If we don't start understanding some of these technologies, we can't do our job. You know, and there's a lot of other services. Let me just tell you one more quick story about Azure and about services. Whenever I first moved, I have a pretty popular blog. I get about 150,000 unique visitors to my blog every month. And if you ever go out there, you'll see that it's a pretty slow blog in respect to the amount of pictures and stuff I have up there. What I mean by that is it's not just text, very graphical. And whenever I first moved my blog to Azure, I got it was about at least double the performance by simply moving it to Azure. From me running it on-prem in my own data center. On-prem. How is that possible? How is that possible? How can you run something in the cloud faster than I can run it on bare metal? That's what I was running it on bare metal. Actually, I was running it virtualized, but same thing. Because in the cloud, you can isolate and segregate services. So on-prem, you've got a web server that is doing all of the work. It's pulling the data from the database, it's pulling data from the files, it's putting all that stuff together, it's rendering out the completed HTML to the web browser, and then when the web browser goes to deliver those images, it contacts the web server, and the web server sends all that stuff back out. In a true cloud environment, none of that stuff happens that way. The web server, the front end, is just putting the HTML together. Maybe it's got some other worker roles that's doing authentication to make sure that you have the rights to do this. It's got some other services doing other things like auditing. It's got some other services doing some other things. It's maybe even using another service to actually do the SQL query to pull the data. That one server is now running on 5 different boxes. And I haven't even started pulling images yet or files. So the web server delivers that HTML to the web browser. It's done. Never has to communicate with that browser again. Why? Because the images are being rendered by another service. That is the value of cloud. You're able to isolate and separate those different chores and have those highly optimized services. That's one super simple example to understand the value of the cloud. If you want to get smart on the cloud, I recommend this book. Full disclosure, I'm one of the authors. I don't make a dime off of it, though. Microsoft paid me to write the book. They're not paying me any royalties. But it's a great way to get certified on Azure, and getting certified on Azure means that you understand the technology, and most importantly, this exam is architecting Microsoft Azure solutions. It's understanding the business challenge and how I can leverage the cloud to solve those challenges. Great resource. I also have some, I'll come back to that, okay? And you can go back, I've actually got another slide. We'll talk about that in a minute. If you come to our booth, we do have a booth at the Expo Hall, so please come visit us. If you fill out this short survey, you'll, one, get registered to win one copy of the Windows Server 2012 R2 Data Center 25 client access licenses. If anybody cares, that's a pretty expensive piece of software. And you also, while supplies last, we have Microsoft thermoses. These are really cool thermoses. I wanted to show one, but I forgot it. Sorry. Really cool thermos, and it's in got a carrying bag with it. So it's not just a $2 water bottle. It's a nice thermos. For just filling out that survey. So what we want you to do is fill out the survey and just show us the screen with the finished, so we know that you've done it, and then you'll get your thermos, and you'll automatically be registered for the Windows Server, which we'll give out at the end of the day today. You'll actually take home with it today. We're also scanning badges to join my event mailing list. I know I did this last year. How many people got an email from me? 0. Because of policies within Microsoft and privacy and all that stuff, I've had to jump through hoops to get my newsletter actually online. I'm really close. I'm days away. I will have this done in the next 2 weeks. So if you scan your badge, you'll get on my newsletter. I'm not going to spam you. It's just for events. It's to let you know about things that I think are going to be interesting to you. You can go online, itprogrouper.com/join, or the easier way is to come by our booth and get your badge scanned, and you'll go on that list for that. Okay. Also, on my blog, if you want a link to the book, if you do want to go buy the book, on my blog, itprogrouper.com, there is a link on one of the scrolling images to go on Amazon to get that. I do want to talk about one of our partners, Lighthouse. Lighthouse is joining us today, and my hats off to them. They're a leading Microsoft Systems integration firm, so they can help you with your business problem, your challenges, your opportunities. Come by our booth and talk to one of them about some of the challenges that you're having, about some of the things that you're thinking about in terms of deploying to the cloud, or some of your objections to moving workloads to the cloud, whatever. Whatever you want to talk about, Windows Server, Windows 10, whatever your challenges are, we're here. So come on over. They have creative design, professional consultants, right? Full life cycle development approach. So they're not a shoot-from-the-hip company. They're going to do it right. We're going to give you a complete solution, not just a finished product. And they also have some special offers for today, the VTech Winter Warmer exclusive offers. So like a half-day workshop. Right? Definitely come by. They're also giving away a Microsoft band, so drop your card in the bowl for a Microsoft band. And they also have exclusive offers for their services engagement. So please come by the booth and let them know that you're interested. Let's talk a very little bit about Azure. 24 regions online, 100+ data centers, top 3 networks in the world, twice the size of AWS, 6 times the size of Google in terms of regions around the world. Massive data centers. Microsoft is in this for the long haul. This is the new Microsoft. Let's talk about security, because the future, we do need to understand security. We need to learn a lot about security. If you think the days are over of you having to keep up with technology, you are sadly mistaken. Those days are back where we have to hit the books constantly. We have to go to training constantly. Rising number of organizations suffering from breaches, increasing incidents, bigger motivations, bigger risks. Right? Here's some examples. You want some more? Go to this URL I've got up here. Every day, every time I've looked up there in the last week, there's been 2 new ones added. Every single time. It's constant. It's ever growing. From a security standpoint, there's a massive amount of stuff that Microsoft has done in Windows 10, Windows Server, and in newer technologies. A lot of it has to do with administrator privileges, because from phishing attacks, stolen admin credentials, insider attacks, all of these attacks seeks out and exploits privileged accounts. We gave administrators privileges, and now the hackers are figuring out those are the permissions that we want, because those are the permissions that we can go out and do what we want. So they're going out there and trying to get those. So we have to have a new security model. The new security model is assume breach. We assume that Trojan horse is going to get in there. And once they're in there, we want to make it really hard for them to spread. Security in the past, you're defending the perimeter. No, long ago, that has not been the only solution. That is only a very, very, very small piece of the solution. You have to assume breach. Limit or block the breach from spreading, detect the breach, respond to the breach. Some technologies that Microsoft's put into place, hardware-rooted technologies to separate the guest operating system from the host administrators. So if you have systems running inside of a virtual machine, your virtualization administrators cannot even gain access to it. Right? That's the kind of technology that we're talking about. Right? Guarded fabric identity. So your fabric administrators, who used to be like gods in our organization, they don't have access to see data. Right? These are some technologies that are coming to you in your data center with Windows Server 2016, with shielded virtual machines, where you have host guardian service that actually goes out, host guardian service that actually is managing all your encryption keys. We have a ton of new networking capabilities in Windows Server 2016. Not going to go into any detail, I just simply don't have the time. But with convergence and networking, you have an entirely new model with the software-defined networking. Literally everything is definable, or almost everything is definable through software. And having a complete rewrite of the stack and having this Hyper-V vSwitch in between everything, and everything sitting on top of that gives us an enormous amount of capability, additional capability, and performance. Oh, by the way, we're not limited to wire speed, right? You're not limited to wire speed until you're actually on the wire. For all those things that are inside or communicating inside your virtual infrastructure, you can communicate on the bus at bus speed, way faster. So big advantages. Guest clustering with shared VHDX. Yes, a shared VHDX that can be sitting on an SMB share even. And you can have multiple machines pointing to it, right, for high availability. Awesome technologies built into Windows Server 2016. This is part of the technology that we all need to learn. We need to keep up with this technology. Supports online resize. Nano server, new technology. Who's heard of nano server before? Anybody heard of nano server? Wow, only a couple people. Microsoft's been talking about nano server for 6 months. If this is the first time you're hearing about it, you're falling behind. Yes, I know it's not out yet. It'll be out in a few months. It's already been in technical preview for a year and a half. The people in this room, you should be on technical preview and starting to kick the tires and understanding the technology. Please think about that. I know you have to prioritize, right? Maybe Windows Server is not your highest priority. And in fact, it probably shouldn't be. Probably your first priority should be cloud services and Internet of Things, right? Understanding business challenges. But you know what? Have a couple of different things that you're working on. Hopefully one of those is going to be Windows Server and some of the great technology that you can bring to your data center. Nano Server is a new headless 64-bit deployment option for Windows Server. I know what you're thinking. Oh yeah, this is Server Core all over again, Dan. Right? Server Core all over again. It's actually a lot different than Server Core. The Nano name is because it is so small, like 600 meg small, like tiny, versus a standard deployment of Windows Server at 8 to 10 gig, right? Tiny. Understand what that means. I could run it on a small 1 gig stick. That's how small Nano Server is. Small means small footprint. Small means small patch print. Small means wicked fast. But it does have a lot of capability. You can still do management. And we've done some smart things, like giving you easy access to, oops, I guess I got ahead of myself a little bit. Like giving you easy access to IP information so you don't have to figure out stuff the hard way. We're giving you default on remote capability, remote access to the server so you can remotely manage it. So a lot of smart things that we've done. PowerShell Direct, so you don't even have to have a network connection in order to PowerShell into the box. Right? A lot of technology that's been added to make managing it super simple. And it does have major deployment improvements from setup time, disk footprint, VHD size. Major improvements over server core. And remote access by default, easy access to IP information, I mentioned that. Drivers, roles, and features that are supported. Hyper-V host, file server host, failover clustering, Nano as a VM. All OEM drivers in server core. Reverse forwarders. This is the thing about Nano. Whenever you're building it, it's almost like the good old days when we had NetWare. Chris mentioned this earlier too. We had NetWare, we had to generate the install disk. Anybody remember those days? You had to generate the install disk for NetWare. It's kind of like that. You're building Nano, and you're putting these packages, oh, I want Nano to have this package, and I want Nano to have that package, and you're calling it from a command line to build the installation, then you install with that. So it has only what you need in it. Super, super small, super, super fast, and very, very secure. That's Nano. And I have some cool stickers at my desk, at my booth too. And management tools. They're the same ones you've been using for years. System Center, Computer Management, Server Manager. Yeah, right-click, add a new server, my Nano server. Boom, that's simple. Right? Same tools we've been using for years. PowerShell, of course. We have PowerShell Direct now. That's where you don't have to connect to it via the network. You don't have to have even a network connection or to connect to it via PowerShell because it's going through the VM bus. And we've added one, Visual Studio. Hint. We can now give our developers access to our servers. Yay! Yeah, I know. But what if you want them to deploy, right? In this new world of applications and applications deployment, we are giving you the capability of giving them those capabilities. And oh, by the way, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if 5 years from now, I'm up here telling you that you haven't learned how to use Visual Studio yet. You're in the dark ages. I see the day coming. I'm not suggesting you have to go crack open Visual Studio today, but just note, Visual Studio Code, which is a text editor, an IDE, it is a great little tool. I use Notepad++ for years. Visual Studio Code is just as good and better. Okay? So Visual Studio Code is a great thing, great little tool to have available to you to read your XML files, to read your JSON files, to read your text files, to read your log files. Get used to Visual Studio Code as your text editor. And you know, as we bring more and more technology from that side of the world into our services, we'll at least understand what they are and what they do. Everything, from shifting needs in IT management, everything is changing. Management as a service, microservices and containers, we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. Everything is cloud-inspired. Support for heterogeneous environments. I mean, 40% of all the servers running in Azure today are running on Linux. Right? We have a heterogeneous environment. We do. We all do. We know that. We understand that. So we want to give you management capabilities anywhere. Next generation cloud management, multi-cloud support, multi-vendor support. Right? We have those capabilities. System Center, Operations Manager Suite. Learn about these technologies. We have new automation capabilities with visual desired state configuration, graphical workflow authoring. Awesome tech. We've got containers. We've got Windows Server containers. And I got a bunch of slides, so I'm going to flip through these because I don't have time to finish them all. But in containers, within containerization, think of a container as, you know how in terminal services you have an operating system and then you install applications and multiple users are able to use those applications, one operating system. In a virtualized environment, it's very different because you have multiple operating systems that are running on top of your core server or your server that's running on the bare metal. Well, containers are more like session-based computing than they are like virtualization because they're sharing the same core. You have multiple machines that share the same core, But then you can add additional code on top of that. And as you add additional code on top of that, you can create new cores out of those subsets. So maybe you can have your runtimes or your particular applications. Some people think of it as like application virtualization, but it's so much more than that. So we have containers built right into Windows Server 2016. We have containers in two different ways. You have server containers. You also have Hyper-V containers. Hyper-V containers run at a lower level. They run in a different way. And I'll try to show you some architecture slides in a future presentation. I'm not going to have time today. But they're completely isolated from one container from the next without the overhead of having all those different OSs running. It's a lot of overhead. So container runtime, host operating system, those are your Windows Server containers. They sit right on top of the OS. Whenever you have Hyper-V, that's what it would look like if you're running your containers under Windows Server. If you're running virtual machines, they would sit on top of Hyper-V. Your Hyper-V containers run right on top of Hyper-V as well. But one more thing, you could also run Hyper-V inside of a virtual machine now, so you could actually run Hyper-V containers inside of a VM. Right? Lots of capabilities built into Server 2016. Play with the technology. Look at the VMware to Hyper-V migration tool. It's up to version 3. You can download it. It's free. Right? Gives you tons of capabilities. Virtualization resources and feedback. Download Windows Server 2016. Explore the technical preview documentation. Explore the containers documentation, the Nano Server documentation. Microsoft Virtual Academy and TechNet Evaluation Center and TechNet Virtual Labs. 3 awesome resources. Remember, I opened the day today with our #1 challenge of CIOs. Anybody remember what that was? Yeah. Our ability to understand the business and the technology. Right? Our talent. Light a fire. Go create some more talent within your organization and within yourself. These are great resources to do that. The TechNet Virtual Labs allow you to actually log in to play with this technology. You don't have to install anything. We have a TechNet Evaluation Center. Download Microsoft software trials. Pretty much anything, including Windows Server 2016. Microsoft Virtual Academy. If you take nothing from today, take Microsoft Virtual Academy. Microsoft Virtual Academy is an entire university, online university, dedicated to teaching you about Microsoft technology. 100% free. Learn at your own pace. Right? They have live classes. They have recorded classes. They have all kinds of stuff. You know what? For people that are business leaders or technology leaders or managers, they even have a point system so you can evaluate your staff based on their points. You want them to learn? Leverage the technology built into Microsoft Virtual Academy to grade or to put on your guys' scorecards. You want them to learn? Incentivize them to learn. So next steps, keep learning. Learn about the business. Learn about technology. I run dedicated certification jumpstarts. I run full-day brainstorming or problem resolution workshops. I'm also going to do full-day technology training. Some things I've got on the schedule right now. I've got an Azure event coming up. I've got I've got a Windows Server 2016 coming up in a couple of months. Those are all going to land on my calendar in the next couple of weeks, and they're going to land in my newsletter as soon as I get it live, which will probably be a week or two. So other ways to keep learning, Brad Anderson's cloud blog, aka.ms/inthecloud. He did a VTUG keynote a couple of years ago. Some of you might remember him. My blog, itproguru.com. Microsoft Virtual Academy, that's the big one. Got to get out there on Microsoft Virtual Academy. My email address is on the screen, but I get about 800 emails a day, so that's probably not the best way to reach me. But if you do email me and I don't respond fairly quickly, don't hesitate to send me another message or another 2 messages to float up to the top of the box, so hopefully I do get to it. So I am sometimes a little delayed on emails. My apologies, but it's because I give it out to so many people. So with that, I don't have time for questions, but I will be at the booth most of the day, and I want to encourage all of you to come visit, come ask questions, and you know what? Hit me with your challenges, some of the challenges that your business is faced with, and let's spend a minute or two thinking about how you can brainstorm that and who in your organization you should be able to bring to the table to help you brainstorm those issues. And lastly, I really appreciate the opportunity as a Microsoft representative to speak in front of you. So I hope that I've added some value to your learning today. And if I have, please articulate that to Chris and Don and the other leaders that brought this to you today. Thank you very much.